In this video, I'm going to explain how I installed the LED light strips underneath the exterior of my camper for that underglow look. I purchased the multicolor LED light strip that's waterproof. I bought them off Amazon. They're fairly inexpensive. There's a huge market on different brands and stuff. LED lights. I'm not going to go over the product as much as I'm going to go over the installation of how I actually installed the product. But I will show you real quick. I bought this light kit here. It comes with two rolls. There's two 16.4 foot rolls, which comes out to 32.8 foot. It does come with a remote control that you can turn it on, off. You can change the brightness levels, make it brighter, make it dim. Comes with the basic red, green, blue, white colors. It also, you have an array of colors that you can choose from. You can make it jump through three colors. You can make it jump through 7 colors. You can make it fade 3 colors, fade 7 colors. It has a 1 through 4 hour timer on it, and it also dances with the music. Like for instance, if you're talking, you can make it bounce from color to color. You can make it fade from color to color. Different things you can do on it. They're real neat, and they're really bright. But like I said, that's about as far as I'm going to go into the product itself. I am going to go into how I installed it and my way of doing it. There's a bunch of different ways of how to do it. You can wire them into your awning light, your porch light. You can wire them into a switch, which is the method I chose. There's just different ways you can do it. You can have it where it's powered all the time, where you can control it solely from the remote, because it does have an on and off button on it. But the way I'm going to do it, I'm just going to leave them on all the time and then let my switch on my control panel cut them on and off. They do have a memory on them, so like if I have them on red and I cut my switch off, when I cut my switch back on, they will be red. If I had them jumping, cut them off and back on, they will be jumping from color to color. Things like that. So that's what I have going on in this video, and from there we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing you need to do when worrying about hooking up your LED light strip is, how are you going to cut it on? How are you going to cut it off? With me, I chose a switch, so that's the method that I'm going to use, and I had to figure out where I was going to put my switch. So on my control panel, I looked, and there was a spot that says, I only have 2 slides on my camper, but there was a blank spot that said slide 3. So I took the blank out and I put my switch there, and I'll show you now what that looks like. So here's the control panel on my camper. I guess they call it the convenience center or whatever. I don't really know the terms for it. I call it control panel because it's where I control all my stuff. And right here, if you see this switch right here, where it says slide 3, this is where I decided to put it because it was just a blank plug there. So I pulled it out and bought another switch. Unfortunately, the switch was a little more narrow on the sides than what these switches are. So when I put the switch in, I could see behind my control panel. So what I had to do was I had to take my blank, I don't know if you can see it behind there, and I had to cut it out in the center. That way my switch would fit on there and not see the space behind it. So I cut my spot out, and I slid the switch into the blank, and then I slid the blank into my control panel, and then that's how it will be operated. In order to access behind the control panel, the first thing that you're going to have to do is, right here is a little piece of trim all around the control panel. It pops off. If you'll just grab the end of it and easily just pull back, it sounds bad, but it's not as bad as you think. And just ease that back, it will come off. Be gentle, because you don't want to break it. And then behind that, you'll find 6 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're Phillips head. You'll remove those, and once you remove those, it'll come right out. Just remove the 6 screws, and if you look, you'll see that it's just basically falling out. And you just wiggle it out. Be careful not to pull any wires out or tear up anything on the way. Just be kind of gentle. Right here is the switch that I've added. When you can see the little black piece right here, that is the blank, or what's left of the blank that I used. I just cut it out. I used a Dremel, and I put the switch in, and it's snug. It's not going anywhere. So the next thing that I did, once I figured out where my switch was going to be, was how was I going to power it up? And what I did is I used a test light. I used a 12-volt test light to check for power, because you don't want to use 120 volts on your lights. They're 12 volt. They do come with a 120 volt power adapter, but that's not needed because they are naturally 12 volt. And if you're going to plug them into a 110 volt socket, like just regular house power, you can keep it. But I chose to run it off a 12 volt system, which is how they naturally operate. So what I did is I looked around, and I had an idea of where I wanted to get my power from, because my awning lights are 12 volt. They're LED light strip. They're white. So I was under the impression that they were 12 volts, which I was right. So I just used my test light and tested my wires back here and got my power off my awning light. So, and I also, the hardest part was, believe it or not, was finding a good ground. And what I mean by a good ground is I had a problem. I had a problem with this light right here, which is, I think it's called a direct starter interrupter fault or something, ignition fault. And what would happen was, when I would cut my lights on, the light would illuminate, and I wanted everything working as it should. So when I would turn my switch on and that light come on, I didn't like that. So I had to find a ground that was not associated with that light to keep the current away from it. So they're in there. There's a bunch of grounds in there, and I was able to find one and splice in it, and I got my power and my ground that way. Now let me point out the fact that you don't have to find your ground behind your control panel. You can ground the lights to the frame of your camper, but I wanted everything to be together. I didn't want my ground being in one location and then my power being in a completely separate location. That way, if there's a problem, I have one place that I can look for my problem. So I brought a power wire and a ground wire. I start it here and run down, and I'll show you. Run it through this wall, and I don't know if I can get far enough back, but here's my bathroom, and there's a closet here, and at the bottom of this closet is an access way, and I pulled the 2 Phillips head screws out, and there was a hole in the floor with where all the other wires go through, and I was able to feed my wires through there. And I went ahead and put my screws back on, and I'm fixing to put my trim piece back on. I'll go ahead and show you that. And it just, you grab it, push it, it snaps in pretty easy. And that's it. It's back the way it was before I touched it. But like I was saying, I took my wires, went through the floor, and I come out, and I'll show you. I've already got my underlayment piece open, and you can see the wires that come through, and I was able to feed it through there. I found a hole in the frame, and I came through there, and this, I don't need that much wire, but this is what's going to be supplying the power and ground for my 12 volt lights. So here I am outside of the camper. It's getting dark, but the first thing to do outside of the camper before you do your install is you need to make sure that you measure the frame where you're going to be putting your lights to make sure that you're going to have enough space. I do have enough space on mine, and most of these LED light strips come with sections that you can cut. So keep that in mind when you're putting your light strips in, that there is the option that if there's too much on one side or the other, you can cut in certain sections. So the second thing you need to do is you need to get under your camper. If I can show you. And you need to clean with alcohol your frame. Right here is where I'm putting mine. I don't know if you can see that. So right here's the frame. Here's the frame. Up top is where I'm going to be putting it. I wiped it down with 70% alcohol to make sure there was no grease, no dirt, nothing of that sort. And once you get through with that and let it dry, I will start putting my lights up. Alright, so this is the process of putting the lights onto the frame of the camper. And it's just as easy as running it through everywhere to where you can get it to touch the frame. Make sure there's no brackets in the way, no wires in the way. You want the lights to fit flush against the frame. And it has double stick tape on the back, so you'll start from one end. I didn't really show you the end, but it's self-explanatory. You'll pull the red is the backer that protects the double stick tape, and what you want to do, you'll just pull a little back, and then you'll take your lights and you'll firmly push them up. You don't want to press too hard because you don't want to damage anything, but you just go a little at a time, work your way down, and they stick up there pretty good. And I'll show you, let's see if I can zoom in for you. Right there, I don't know if you can see it, right there is them copper pieces are where you can cut it if you need to. I know I stated earlier there's spots on the light strip that you can cut. In those copper sections you can cut right there, and it will not damage the light whatsoever. It will still function. Kind of a, cut to fit situation. So I'll continue getting these lights put on, and then I'll get back with you and show you the finished product. All right, everybody, it's dark, I know, but I have them installed. I did, like I said, underneath on the frame, I cleaned everything with alcohol, made sure all the dirt and grime and everything was off of it, and then I just peeled back the red adhesive backer on it and stuck it to the frame. I'll step up closer and show you, and then I'll show you my wiring that I did for it. See if I can get under there and show you. There it is, hooked up. Alright, and what I did as far as the wiring was, I had my two wires come through the body of the camper to the under part under the frame. It was my power wire, my ground. I run them through the switch. And what I did was I hooked it up to my module, and my module is right there with some double stick tape. It is weatherproof tape, and I have it run through the frame as well. I don't know if you can see that, but it's run through there, and there's my sensor. So it's ready to go. I'm extremely pleased with it. If y'all have any questions, any comments, anything I need to explain better, this is my first YouTube video ever. First time ever recording myself. So like I said, any tips, anything for me, or if you have any questions about the installation process, no, I am not a certified professional electrician. This was just a hobby, something I wanted to do, and so I did it, and I wanted to show you my way, and hopefully it helped somebody out. Thank you for your time.